Hey everyone, in today's video, we're going to talk about one of the parameter pages, the LFO. Now this one's really important for modulation, but it can be a little bit confusing, especially with the speed and multipliers. I also want to talk about the different modes and the destinations and how you can use this to really get some modulation to your tracks. One example from the presets that I think uses a really interesting way for LFOs is the preset Firefly. That's on bank B number 6. On track 7, it actually has the LFO set to sample. So this track is going to be changing the different, cycling through different samples as it goes. I'm going to go ahead and mute everything but track 7. Listen to what it sounds like. And I mean, that's literally just going through 44 plus samples, all the samples that are loaded up, 81 samples that are loaded up into the presets sample bank. And it's just starting at 44 and cycling through those. But it sounds great when you add in all the other tracks. Super funky. So let's talk about first just generally what an LFO is. Let's make it really basic. It's a slow waveform that it's low frequency, meaning it moves very slow, and it's an oscillator. When you assign it to a specific destination, like the filter frequency, that means that this is going to travel up and down at a speed that we set using these two parameters, and it'll make our filter frequency travel up and down, just like as if we were turning this knob by hand. So there's all kinds of different wave shapes that you can choose, from triangle to a sine wave, pulse wave. This is a saw wave. There's like an envelope style exponential, ramp, and then random. You can also determine the phase of the wave. And if you see as I'm turning it, that's basically what it looks like. It's like, do you want to start low and go high? Do you want to start high and go low? So you can decide where these LFOs start. And depending on the mode that you choose, that actually really matters a lot. The waves and the phases are probably the easiest to understand. The modes are when it starts getting a little bit tricky. So this first mode that you see is free form, where the wave just goes on and on and on. Let me actually load up a pattern that we can use so we can hear some of this. This is a pattern that I set up a while ago that I think I used to describe a different concept, but let's listen to what it sounds like. And I already have some modulation set up in here, but let's go ahead and listen to our hi-hats. So I'm going to mute everything else but the hi-hats. And that's what it sounds like. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn down the delay. And if you notice, and I'm actually going to go ahead and just make it play straight through. There, so we have a steady hi-hat voice going through. Now if I go to the filter section and I modulate this frequency with my hand, watch what happens. And I'm going to turn up the resonance so you can really hear it. So that's what our LFO is going to do if we set the destination to filter frequency. So let's listen to it. Oh, forgot to explain. So at this, when it's set to a depth of 0, it's not going to move at all. So you can attenuate how deep this goes by turning this knob up. If you turn it all the way up to almost 128, then that'll be full force. It'll go all the way up and down. At about 60, it'll go halfway up and down. So we can hear the full range. I'm going to turn it all the way up. Now that's going super, super, super fast. So let's turn the speed down. We'll turn this down to... You can hear it going up. And now it's coming back down. Let's actually turn this up to... So the speed and the multiples are really confusing to me still. What I figured out, it explains it in the manual that it multiplies speed times the BPM listed here. I don't really see that happening. What I can figure out is that when that speed times the multiple, if it equals 128, then that is one time through a 16-step sequence. So if you listen here, this is 1, this is 128, and it'll rise and fall, and then right back, when it gets to step 1, it'll start over again. So if these multiply together to equal 128, then it's a 16-step sequence in 4/4 time. It doesn't seem to have any impact on the actual BPM, so I'm not really sure how the math works out in that, but I do know that 128 is a 16-step sequence. And so, I mean, you could lower this down to 64 and turn your speed up to 2, or just about, and it would be the same effect. If you can figure out the math and why that is, I'd love to hear it in the comment section. But that's how I'm reasoning it out, is that if it equals 128, then it is one time through a 16-step sequence. If I want it to be faster than that, then I can just turn it up from there. So say turn your speed up to 5. Now it'll be much faster than a 16-step sequence. And if I want it to be slower, then I would turn it down. Let's talk about the modes. Right here is free flowing. So that means that the LFO is going to be going, and it's going to stay going even if you mute the track. If there's no triggers happening, it's just going. And so once you unmute it, it'll just jump back in wherever it was. If we change the mode, we can see this is a trigger mode. Whenever the step is triggered, it's going to start off at the beginning. Now notice here on my hi-hats, it was going every 16 steps. So you're not going to really hear that because the LFO doesn't have a chance to actually move because it's just constantly being reset. But if I were to change tracks, let's go to something. All right, so for this one, let's do the same thing. Oops. Now I'm going to change the mode. So you can hear it hitting that frequency every time it's triggered. If we keep going, this is a sample and hold mode. And it's kind of difficult to explain without visuals. I highly recommend looking it up. But basically, this waveform is going to be free flowing, and whenever a trigger hits, wherever it is on that waveform is going to hold straight. That trigger is going to stay at that parameter level. Let's hear what that sounds like. So you don't get those like sweeps as it's playing. Whenever it hits, it stays that way. This would be great for something like changing the sample sound. This mode also re-triggers every time there's a trigger, but this time it only plays once through the wave cycle. So it doesn't keep going like in the other one, where this one just will keep going. This one will only play once through the wave cycle. And this one will only play half through the wave cycle. So when I have my phase set like this, that means it's going to go down. And when I change my phase to something like this, it'll go up and come back to the 0 line and then stop. So I highly recommend that you go through the presets and take a look at how they masterfully use the LFOs to build up interesting tracks. All right, so that's how the LFO page works. I hope you got something out of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Again, thanks to Perfect Circuit. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.